So apparently, China's tech stocks are threatening the US AI monopoly, and that is the headline as of today. So I'm gonna dive right into this, can we call it issue, depending on what view you are coming from, and basically what are stating here in the newspapers today is that the AI revolution is just getting started, and that the big tech of China is really taking over, being very forceful in their way of expanding into different regions, and also providing kind of an offering that is quite compelling and close to what US companies are offering, but it's much cheaper. So let's dig straight into the news here. So this is what we have at the headline level at CNBC, one of the bigger news outlets regarding stock markets, etc. And as you see here, China's tech stocks threatens the US AI monopoly, and it's just getting started. So it's like it's quite excited when I read this. I need to see what are they coming from. So basically, they are moving up the value chain, and yeah, we have been warned here that most of the worlds might be running on Chinese tech stocks within 5 to 10 years. So that's very soon. And this is because they have caught up in terms of AI. And before we continue to just read this newspaper here and the article, I want to show you what is the big tech stocks of China, because that's easier as you who watch the video to understand what companies are we talking about. So this is basically the top 10 Chinese tech companies out there. So we have Tencent Holdings. Some of you might know them from WeChat. Also, they do a lot of gaming, for example, League of Legends. And if you watch Netflix and you have seen like a lot of productions there, Tencent is often doing a lot of work. For example, the League of Legends series, etc. They are also doing cloud and fintech investments, etc. So they are a versatile company, similar to like a Facebook, Microsoft kind of play, very big and successful Chinese company. Then we have Alibaba Group. Um, so this is basically a company similar to Amazon. They have e-commerce, digital payments, cloud services, etc. This was around, I think, 2017 or 2018, a quite popular play for many US investors. Alibaba Group was maybe the first big Chinese tech play, I would say. With a famous Jack Ma as the CEO and founder. So yeah, then we have U of A Technologies, a lot of 5G telecom equipment, etc. Some of you might know that they got banned in the West, in US, etc., based on spyware, etc. Kind of accusations, similar Cisco, Qualcomm, and I would say T-Mobile, some other companies out there. It's still a giant. So if Huawei continue to improve their reputation and China improves their reputation they might start to sell more products like in Southeast Asia, maybe in South America, Africa, Europe, and eventually US again. So we will see what happens. BYD, that's the self-driving car company that Warren Buffett invested in very early on, very successful. We have ByteDance, that's the TikTok company. Xiaomi do like smartphones, even cars. Very good products. Baidu, kind of Chinese Google. I would say Baidu in the West is not taking over Google anytime soon. I think people understand that these kind of companies actually use your user data to improve. So Baidu is built on the search inside of China mainly. So I am skeptic that they will overtake Google. Anyway, we have Pinduoduo, or how you pronounce it. It's kind of similar like eBay, using groups for buying discounts, etc. And then we have this Meituan. So that's basically Uber Eats and yeah, JD.com, a company I've invested in back in the days. So yeah, that's that. That's the companies, the big ones, and they started to get more and more attention lately. And Yeah, a lot of them, they provide products that we actually consume. For example, ByteDance and TikTok, everyone consumes it. So you can't say that, oh, the West are going to refuse all Chinese products based on personal integrity, etc., because we already buy a lot of products like cars, we use TikTok, etc. So why can't Tencent, we do use Tencent products, so why can't Alibaba continue to expand? I know some people buy from Alibaba and similar. Why can't Juve start to grow, etc.? That is maybe the play here. Will the West accept China as an equal play as like US tech? Will we trust China? I think that's the question here, because the products, they are good, they are cheap, they are quality. Still, maybe some other AI models are stronger, but in terms of like the products, I think they will be able to compete. So anyway, back here we will see what they are talking about. So Rory Green, the China economist and head of Asia research, told CNBC that the America's perceived monopoly in AI has actually been broken already. And I would say we also have a lot of interesting AI companies in Europe. So um, don't forget that. Obviously, the biggest companies out there are American. And yeah, 1 year ago, maybe more, DeepSeek was the talk of um, the day. And now a lot of the companies I show you are moving up the value chain a lot. And obviously, all new products, IoT, Internet of Things products, cars, etc., they have like integrated AI inside of them. So that is an important thing also to keep in mind. Um, yeah, they're basically saying also that they are backed by massive supply chain. They're backed by the government. Uh, they says that Xi Jinping here wants to be the tech bro, and are putting a lot of money into this tech sphere, so to speak. So uh, it's hard to know in terms of China if they keep like this tight governmental structure and communistic structure and still provide the the possibility of a free market and creative incentives in the future, because what we see now are like the structure of China the latest 10 to 15 years. But we have seen that they are tightening the grip, the Communist Party have tightening the grip of China, and I think we can't be sure how that will affect China long term. And I still think they are quite dependent on importing a lot of things like agriculture, etc., from other countries. So that is something to keep in mind. And they're saying that while US chip giants like Nvidia are viewed as the gold standard for semiconductors, and they are used to train AI models, Juve is narrowing the gap by deploying larger volumes of chips and leveraging cheaper power to scale compute. We do see that China are buying chips again from Nvidia and AMD. I did see like the last quarter, AMD had like $300 or $400 million in income from China. So I still think like the GPUs, they need to buy them from Europe. But I do think that they are starting to ramp up their own like RAM chips, like Micron, for example, that type of memory chips. China are actually one of the countries they that have a capacity to produce these themselves, but they are banned to sell them in US, for example. So that is one thing that they can use to bring down prices, because the rest of the world has to use like Samsung, SK, Unix, or Micron memory chips that are very, very expensive, while China can just use a lot cheaper kind of model and memory chip for their expansion. Also, China is a top trade partner for most of the world, particularly in emerging and frontier economies. And yeah, that has been a plan for China for a long time, going into Africa, South America, etc., to being that dependent partner that USA used to be. So that is also the play they have done. And for these economies, they think here that the choice is very simple. You could see that a lot of them will run on Chinese tech. So I think this is kind of the power play at the moment. What will they use, like USA as a base or China? And this is also what Nvidia's Jensen has talked about a lot lately. Like we should use Nvidia tech inside China, because if even if they use China's products, AI products around other countries, at least it's built on American product, and through that we will still get a lot of revenue, a lot of control, and being that important player long term. So that is kind of the friction we have seen in terms of like governmental regulations and also Chinese tech and where we should go. That's the harsh question here. But I do think like in USA, both parties are quite defensive on China at the moment. So I think after the next election, there probably will be some more regulative regulations on like tech and GPUs, etc. So I do think this situation will be an ongoing situation. And at the moment that we have um, Trump, etc., they are a bit more lenient and maybe let some more microchips and GPUs going through. So we will see. Also, Demis Hassabis, the CEO of Google DeepMind, basically says that China's AI models might be just a matter of months behind US and Western rivals. And in the end of the day, when you are a consumer, you maybe use Anthropic or ChatGPT or Gemini or whatever. You just want to use the product and get a good answer. Maybe you don't, as a consumer, care about, oh, this model is 3 months before, or this model is doing, oh, this little thing a little bit better. You just use the things you are used to. So, for example, even if Messenger, Facebook Messenger, might be better than WeChat, in China they still use WeChat because that was what they were introduced to, and that might be what's happened if China's products are getting chosen, like in a lot of emerging markets. So that is interesting. I do still think that India is an important play for USA and Europe, and it seems like with the new trade deals going on, probably US tech and European tech will be implemented in India before China tech will, and that's just a giant market going forward. Also, we see here a lot of spending from US hyperscalers, nothing new. And yeah, some chief investment officer from Selwood said that there are a lot of nervousness around US exceptionalism, especially after the sell-off in US software sector earlier this month. I do want to say that depending on what companies earn, what they spend, and if stock prices go up and down, is kind of, it doesn't have to be the same thing here. So despite companies doing good, they can afford the spending, they have increasing cash flow, they will get return on investment on the AI spending on the microchips, etc. Despite that, the software stocks, etc., might go down because someone has a perceived, at the moment, valuation of these companies that might be correct or might be wrong. So, for example, I can use Salesforce as an example. You could say that, oh, Anthropic's new models might take over Salesforce offering and can do similar tasks. On the other hand, you might say that, well, Salesforce might integrate their products inside of, for example, Anthropic's or ChatGPT's AI motor, and through that they can use their own customer data that they only can access and integrate that into the AI motor that the best companies, or AI engine that the best companies, AI companies out there provide. So you can use the best of both worlds to grow. So software companies do not have to be eaten alive by AI companies, even though some people might think that. So keep that in mind, that this is not very so easy as some analysts are saying. And lastly, here, continuing to talking about the hyperscalers capex and arrays, and I think this is the same kind of talk we did have back in the day when DeepSeek arrived, and we have some of these companies' stock price getting hurt. And I think that they're also saying that what's driving this big question mark about the US versus China and whether the US will be the winner um, is this. But for the time being, there are a lot of capital being spent, a lot more than even was expected a few months ago. And yeah, this is what they are talking about. And I still think this is a lot of narrative. And living in Europe, that are supposedly at the moment being quite like getting a kind of a negative way from the USA and getting pushed to China, I still feel like USA is someone I trust a lot more than the system that China has, that is based on like communism. So um, in terms of choosing between having my data inside a US company or a Chinese company, and was safest. I still believe that US is up there, and I mean, how this type of conversations and aggressiveness between Europe and USA will not continue forever. Just in 2 or 3 years, I think the situation will change. It doesn't matter if it's a new Republican getting elected or a Democrat. It will still be like the type of relationship that US and Europe have will expand and improve. And also add India upon that. I don't think that China will just take over in 5 to 10 years. I do feel like people will still choose something else. For example, in Sweden, I know that there was one of the states organization inside the state that did choose Chinese products and AI for something, and they did it like without telling anyone. And we have a lot of sensitive data in Sweden that are centralized, and that became a huge issue immediately. So they had to back down. The people who implemented implemented this AI model got fired. So in Europe, we do not trust Chinese products with sensitive information like AI, etc. Would rather use, for example, paid version of Gemini or something that it feels like much safer. And we do have kind of a framework within EU with the US companies, and they do build a lot of data centers inside of Europe that contain the information inside Europe, for example. And yeah, we also have a deal that regulate this kind of stuff at the moment. So that is my take on it. But in terms of Chinese companies and how good they are, I would say a lot of these companies, I were really interested in investing in them for a while. A lot of them are very competitive offerings, very good, smart people, amazing products. So you should not underestimate what they do. And if we continue like the world are seeing China more in a nicer way, and continue to feel a vibe by the acts of USA at the moment, there might be a change where people feel like, okay, maybe it doesn't matter. We can take an AI product from China instead of USA because it's cheaper. And yeah, both these countries do have problems. So why not try China at the moment? I can see that happening, but I don't agree with this article. And before we end, I'm just gonna say that um, if you buy companies from um, from the marketplace of China, you should understand that you do not own like the shares directly from that company. You use like um, um, a shell company in the Cayman Island, and through that shell company, you do own rights to the income or earnings from that Chinese company. But if the government of China decides to, oh, I don't like this type of like fake ownership, they can remove it and you are not safe. So that is why I decided it's not worth the risk to invest in Chinese company. And I did see in the stock market, despite the PE ratios, the price per sales ratio, the growth rates, etc., were amazing, I could not get a sense of where the stock price were heading long term, because the fundamentals wasn't like um, meshed with the stock price based on these ownership rules. So that's that. Thank you very much for tuning in today, and have a wonderful day.